Well, welcome back to the EduHero podcast, everybody. I'm Kirk Konecki, the CEO and Superintendent of Indian Hill Exempted Village School District in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we've got a special podcast today. We have Dr. Siripurapu with us today from Prysmian, and we have our high school principal and future director of K-12 Leadership and Career Development. That's a big label there, Mr. Jeff Damadeo. Welcome to the EduHero podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kirk.
Srini, thank you for taking the time to be with us. So you are running an amazing company, and I know that your background is in research and design. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your professional background and what brings you to this role?
Thank you, Kirk. First of all, I'm a huge fan of the Indian Hill school system, so congratulations to all of you. You do a great job with your students. My role is I'm the Chief Innovation Officer and Chief R&D Officer at Prysmian Group. By background, I'm a chemical engineer by training. I got my PhD in chemical engineering from North Carolina State, and my career of about 25 years spanned several multinational companies, including GE. I've always been interested in material science, nanotechnology, bringing these two together with an eye on sustainability and innovation. So that's what I've done through my career. So it's been it's fun to be right now at Prysmian because we find ourselves really in the center of these two big forces, which is the energy transition to clean energy and digital transformation to have digital equity for everybody.
So your company is really a company that has some pillars and values, and part of those values are about sustainability, and part of them are about innovation, cutting edge technology, and you are right in the middle of all that. And so for people who don't know Prysmian, just give us a little bit of background about the company itself.
Sure. So Prysmian is the world's largest cable solutions provider. We're about a $17 billion revenue business. We are in 50 countries. We have over 100 manufacturing locations, 25 R&D centers. Our North American headquarters happens to be in the greater Cincinnati area in Highland Heights, Kentucky, and that's the reason why we're here.
Looking for future employees and braves who can lead in that company in the future, we hope, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think the position in this region as an innovative company is so important. I think you know this and Jeff knows this, but a lot of companies in this region, we've kind of got our own little Silicon Valley-esque kind of position here in the tri-state area, and your company is great proof of that. Jeff, tell us a little bit about the connection to Prysmian and why it made so much sense for not only experiencerships, but what work you're doing with the Entrepreneurs Center in the future.
Yeah, well, first, again, I want to say thank you to Srini. He has been, and some of his colleagues like John have been just unbelievable partners with experiencerships from the get-go. My first introduction with Srini is when you were looking for a new home. Coming in, one of the headquarters is in Italy, and then the other one is here. And so our very first interaction was just meeting the family and meeting his amazing kids and shopping for schools. And we talked about IB program, but then we talked about opportunities and the things that we're planning on doing here that make Indian Hill stand out, including things like the experiential program that we'll continue to build, and obviously the Entrepreneur Center, which is coming. What made Srini and Prysmian such great partners really is twofold. One, as always, partnerships start with relationships. When Srini and I talked about some of the things that we were doing from an experiencerships program and exposing students to real-world, current-day, cutting-edge opportunities, Srini, like me, kind of gets jacked up. And we had our big launch event for the experiencerships program last March. And literally, like we were just talking about, I was telling him about it, that we were, kind of putting it out there. He was one of the very first partners to raise his hand and say, how can I help? And then we talked about the launch event, which was very much about exposing this to the community and the work we're doing. And Srini and the team jumped in right away and said, we'll take a table.
So Srini, you go to this launch event, right? And sometimes people don't know what they don't know. They're not used to maybe being exposed to the 17-year-old or the 18-year-old, right, who's thinking about career paths. And then you're thrust into an event like that. And what did you learn at that launch event that got you excited?
Well, first of all, I was impressed with the scale. I was not expecting that. It was set up like a college fair, you know, and you had all the big names from the area. I remember Amazon, TriHealth, I mean, pretty much, right, all the big names, the Reds, I mean, everybody was here, right? And the second thing that struck me was it was not only 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds. I actually had a 14-year-old walk up to me in our booth and ask me a lot of insightful questions about offshore wind farms generating renewable energy, right? So I was like, wow, that is impressive, right? So again, like I said, the quality of the students as well as the questions that, the genuine curiosity that they were displaying when they walked over to the booth was something that really remains with me to the day.
and I hope that it, like other partners, it raises your level of trust over time as you're interacting with our student body and learning about them, their wants and needs and dreams, and then remembering a little bit about what that was like for you, and then connecting those dots for them with a career that could be very innovative and take a lot of different twists and turns, as we all probably have been through as adults, and you get to see how adult they can be in real time. Sometimes people don't get to see that unless they come back in. And then, Jeff, you have seen it takes a lot of energy to sustain these partnerships, but when you do have somebody with enthusiasm, then some great things can happen. So what's on the horizon with Prysmian? Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming next?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously through the Experience-Ship program and Entrepreneur Center, we also do some work as well in the region through our Business Advisory Council, and to which Prysmian has been a great partner already, and just being excited about the things that we're doing from a job shadowing, internship, externship possibility in companies. And it starts with opening your doors. As you heard, it's not just having that conversation with a student that is curious, but then how do you open your door to allow kids to experience this? And so not only has Srini and the team already opened their doors to things like internships and potential opportunities, but in the end of May, the team at Prysmian is hosting roughly 20 students. Yep. Those 20 students came from our Experience-Ship Expo, which is kind of iteration 2 of the grand launch of Experience-Ships. As we were just talking about, the launch event was last March, and now we've started to build greater traction, attract more partners, and build some great momentum with the student body and their parents. And so the 20 that are coming to Prysmian at the end of May were part of a list of about 35-ish, 40 students who were interested in hearing more about the work that Prysmian's doing. And that's where it starts. It starts with folks like that, like Srini and the team, to say, hey, I'm not sure what I can do yet, but I am inspired by the types of students and their potential. How can I help? And it starts with just like you have done, and that's opening your door to our kids in any way. This is more of a kind of a job shadowing exposure day, but that's how it starts. And then those curiosity and the questions and the inspiration continues, and who knows what's going to be next in that regard.
What's going to be next is a question I think that's always on Jeff's mind, and not just with helping the students, right, to find connections. But Srini, when you think about the impact of AI and machine learning on your company and what you're all trying to do, what's your take on keeping up with that?
It's a very interesting question you ask, because we actually have right now, as we speak, an enterprise-wide, let's say, analysis, right, and understanding of, hey, how to find the right use cases for AI. We strongly believe, at least for us, that AI will have relevance in multiple streams, everything from how we purchase, raw materials. Every year we purchase billions of dollars worth of raw materials for our company, to how to attract talent, because a while ago, right, before COVID, for example, the topic of remote working and flexibility was optional. But these days, if you don't offer that, you don't get talent in, right?
It's
and
really
the same thing with sustainability. So my expectation in the future is companies have to offer not only topics like innovation and sustainability and remote work, but you should also offer AI. You should give them the opportunities to say, hey, because that's going to be so all pervasive that, it's just going to become one more tool in the toolkit.
I think you hit exactly what I was hoping, right? The idea of talent clusters and technology clusters and resource clusters, and how do you use that to your benefit in a company, and then as a professional, as our students are growing into adulthood, how this is going to revolutionize industries across all industries in so many ways. So then how can our students get in on the ground floor and see how a company operates, learn a little bit about the different classifications and roles that you could play in that, no matter what your passion really is. This is going to affect. So Jeff's been working with partners like you to provide this exposure. The students are going to come on a job shadow experience. They may get placed in an experienceship, Jeff, that could be something from a day to a year long, depending on what's going on with schedules. How do you see the partnerships that are developing, Jeff, impacting the rest of our school as an organization? What's on the horizon for Indian Hill because of partners like Prysmian?
I think so many of us, when we can draw from our own experience, and then about what is it that we were exposed to as young people matriculating through, let's say, K-12 education, and maybe even college and through co-op programs, and then what were we not? And I believe to my core that if we do not expose students to what is out there and really tell the story of all the opportunities, whether they are here in Ohio or beyond, our kids are not going to be truly prepared for what is next. We think about the growth of talent. We think about the shrinking workforce, and then how do you amplify, I'll say, K through 12 students to be ready to be contributors to that next generation of workforce that are going to lead in that space. So folks like Srini and the partnerships we're developing is how do we then expose them through storytelling, through speaker series, through industry recognized credentials that are either available, or maybe we build them through partnerships, knowing and having those conversations with companies and partners, and allowing them to tell us what are their needs, what are the things that they're seeing with, let's say, college graduates and high school graduates, and actually giving us the education we need to prepare our students, and then take that education and make sure that it is intimately integrated into all that we do, and not just high school. These are stories and opportunities that we can share K-12 to, I say it all the time, take focus or maybe a dream that a student may have, and then create a greater level of focus in that dream that advances them through a track, maybe that's an expedited track, and then their impact on their world and community happens faster.
And you said asking the partners about their needs. I think that's really critical, and hopefully that's something that happened for you as a partner, Srini. First and foremost, you're a parent also, right? And so when you think about what you want for your children out of a K-12 experience, knowing what you've learned throughout your career and your education background, your doctorate, what is it that you want to see out of this experience and out of our programming?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that we have two daughters going to the Indian Hill schools. Our older one is graduating now, Meghna, and the younger one, Uma, will come into high school. So, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we feel fortunate that they're part of the school system. When I look back at what, as a parent, right, what we would expect, I think we would expect good quality education, teachers who are truly vested in the children. Not so much as a cookie cutter approach, but genuinely understanding what is it that an individual child is motivated by, and I've seen that in the school. It's a rare thing to do for a public school, I would say. And the second thing is helping them connect, because in our case, we moved from overseas, and I think one of the big differentiators for us why we picked the school was the way Jeff and Ms. Jackson were presenting the school, right? So. Helping the kids have, let's say, a community, right, in the school with the right sort of friendships and everything else. So yeah, I would say learning, genuine interest in understanding of what the student wants, but also helping them become a good corporate citizen when they finish up and leave, because those three things together will make them, go chase what they want to do in the right way.
I appreciate you saying that too, and thinking a little more globally, right beyond graduation, about what type of person they are, and the citizenship piece. I think Jeff is working in this as he transitions to this new role of really helping us K through 12 think about leadership skills, transferable communication skills that can allow people to thrive and be resilient throughout their adulthood, and getting that foundation from world-class teachers and great programs and partners before they graduate. So I appreciate that. One other question I have for you is, as you look strategically as a company for future employees, why does experientships matter to you, and what do you do as a company to make those connections with the region?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Wow. That was the first sneeze on the podcast I think ever. That's history right there.
Bless you. So since we have so many different locations, our preferred recruiting strategy tends to be to find talent close to our locations. And the greater Cincinnati area is important for us, right? And so we've always been close to UC. We participate in the programs they offer, but this is the first time we have kind of stepped back to a high school, right? And given this positive experience with Indian Hill High School, John Andrews, who's my colleague, who's also very active with Jeff, he has joined the Business Advisory Council, hoping that we will contribute a little broader beyond the Indian Hill High School. So again, I think the answer to your question is at this stage, at a high school stage, it is probably unrealistic to say that we'll identify recruits right now. We just want to perk their interest in the area of science and technology.
Intentionally, right? Which
Absolutely.
is what you're doing.
Yes, and so this is sort of an investment, right? We're putting some seeds of interest, right? And then once they go to college, like you see, you actually get pretty serious, right? And bringing them in.
Yeah, and I think that as we move forward, we hope that through Business Advisory Council connections and partnerships, which some of our parents don't know exists, so that can be a really important thing to build those relationships so that you are perking the interest of each individual student who comes through that wants to be a part of something. And like Jeff, I heard you saying before, maybe figure out what they don't want to do as much as what they do want to do.
Absolutely.
Tell people who might be listening, Jeff, what the BAC is, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, so the Business Advisory Council is, it really is what it sounds like, right? It is a collection of local business partners, local organizations from all different fields of work. This is from tech, this is from health, education, industry, and it's also connected to all of in the Southwest region, all of the local schools. Whether those are superintendents or they're teacher designees, whether those are counselors or assistant superintendents, or folks like us who we are kind of positioned in a great place to have some folks spend time or be able to give time to have a lot of these similar conversations in a region, from a regional perspective. And I think about it as we're very fortunate here, again, because of the support of our district team, our board, our community, that have said, hey, how do we build these types of experience and expose our students to this? But the BAC does that work, but it also thinks about all schools that may not have like an internal team, because as Srini said, Indian Hill can supply Srini with potential future talent. But companies like Prysmian are going to need more than just what we can. So how do you also take this idea and spread it to a lot more people to help, again, thinking community growth, state growth, national growth, et cetera?
So Srini, one of the big ways that we get to do that is coming up, right? It's the big pitch. And this is going to be year 2, April 22nd, 6 o'clock.
Yep,
At the auditorium. We'll get started with the competition at 6:30 p.m. Auditorium at the Sue Harder Memorial Performing Arts Center. Srini, when you think of an entrepreneurship activity like the big pitch, right? I think we all probably dreamed that we could have been a part of something like this when we were younger. Maybe you got the opportunity throughout your career, but why are those so important for teenagers?
I think at least the way the big pitch is organized here, what I like about it is it gives the possibility for like-minded students to come together and coalesce, right? So it's a life skill that cannot be learned from books, right? You got to learn on the job. And so if you look at what differentiates a great employee from a good employee in companies is that aspect. That aspect when you have an idea to find other people who can work with you to make a great product or a great process from that idea. So I think that is well, I never got an opportunity like that,
Yeah,
but when I was in high school, mine was a very traditional high school, learning a lot of it by rote and so on and so forth. But what I saw in the big pitch, the way it is set up is that aspect of, hey, you allow kids to choose who they want to coalesce around an idea, and then they all come together and pitch it. And that is a skill which is very, very hard to get.
And transferable, right?
Yes, very valuable throughout careers. Yes.
I love hearing that answer. I appreciate you giving us some insight on that. So let's finish up the podcast today with a little bit of fun. We know that Prysmian is helping lots of Braves, and we know that Cincinnati and this region are thriving with the BAC and partnerships, and it's benefiting Indian Hill. After all the hard work is done throughout the week, Srini, what's the go-to snack or food of choice for you when you're in Cincinnati now, in the tri-state area here over time? What's your favorite release? Like, what are you going for if you're picking one meal?
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Food at home.
Food at home. Okay.
Because I travel a lot for my work, and I prefer a meal with my wife and my kids.
Nothing beats the home cooking and the family time.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great answer. That's a great universal answer. I
Great
appreciate
answer.
it. Mr. Damadeo, obviously, island guy transplant here.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
You don't always get the slice like you can back home, but like if you're in Cincy, what's the go-to for you?
Well, if it's for the slice, it's Goodfellas Pizza. Down in Pleasant Ridge, I have a spot in OTR, but there is no place that does a New York slice like Goodfellas.
That's great to hear, and I might have to go there this weekend
Yeah.
again to
And
check it out.
And I trust that coming from somebody from upstate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. You got to trust it when it comes. Well, listen, I appreciate great partners, and I think, as Mr. Damadeo has said over and over again, great partners make for great learning experiences. What's happening with Experientships, what's happening with the launch of these programs, and partners are so crucial. Srini, we really, truly appreciate all the work that you and the company do for our Braves and building community in this area, and hopefully keeping our Braves thriving and leading these companies in the future. Thank you for being on the EduHero podcast today.
Oh, thank you very much, Kirk, and thanks, Jeff. Thanks
Absolutely.
for inviting
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Jeff. Go Braves.
Go Braves.